It takes people working together to make progress, and sometimes it's incremental, but it happens if we keep pushing. So I would encourage you all to keep that up, to try to make planning better in the city. And that's all I've got. Uh, I think I'll just leave it at that and move on to the next item, unless anyone else has any comments.
Well, do you want to talk a little bit about the responsibilities of the chair?
Oh, you mean
Might be
something
helpful.
practical? You want me to
Yeah.
say something practical? Sure. I mean, we can do that in the next item too, before we hold the nominations. But let's just say we move on to the next item, and I'll introduce the topic before taking nominations.
Well, Kirby, I just want to say
Mhm.
thank you. I mean, you've done a great job, and I know it's good partnership with Mike and the rest of the planning commission, but thanks for your service and appreciate having worked with you from the time I onboarded and everything. So
Yeah, thank you, Kirby. It's been good to. I mean, I feel like I hardly knew you here, but I'm glad you were here for this time. And for my early days on the commission, I've learned a lot. So I do appreciate your work on this, on all of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, oh, Carlton's,
Can you hear me?
there you go.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. So I haven't been on the planning commission long, but I really appreciate you, Kirby, for my own wording, our walk around the city. You edifying my mind to the pitched roof and flat roof situation. So thank you, man, for just your true honesty on breaking things down here. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that all of you guys will keep up the work. Um, and it's not glamorous, but it's definitely, I think, high in fulfillment. It's worth doing. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, election of the new chair. So yeah, I'll start by giving folks a background of obviously, like anyone who has like a position like a chair can make it their own. I mean, there's some bare minimum stuff, and that bare minimum stuff is working with Mike and your vice chair during the week to develop what could potentially go on the agenda. We have the benefit of having wonderful staff, and Mike usually has really great ideas for sketching out a framework for an agenda. Um, but the chair has the freedom to uh, add other things for consideration, other things for discussion. You can make of it as much as you want. You can choose the approach that you want to take with setting the agenda. I'd say that I've been patient with things, and I've been a consensus type based chair. I don't know if I would judge that as the best approach, really. I don't know. That's just kind of how things went. Um, a person could definitely push harder for things they care about or try to do more work between meetings to collaborate outside the planning commission. Um, but so it's whether you want to be a reactive type chair or a proactive chair. Is that there's a spectrum that a person will have to choose. Uh, you know, building consensus among the planning commission or being okay with different voices is something that you have to decide. And then trying to lead in the areas and that you think are important. Choosing what that is from a policy standpoint can be difficult because we have a lot of different, if you look at all the different chapters of our city plan, for instance, there's a lot of areas that a person can focus on, and all those areas have at least some tensions with other areas. Uh, so figuring that out and getting to know what you think that the people of the city want, and working on the outreach component. I think we've discovered recently that being successful as a planning commission, I think means uh, not only being aware of what the residents of the city want, but taking some steps to make sure that that the majority of people speak up. Because being too complacent, which I probably was at times, if I'm being honest, I probably wasn't proactive enough in doing outreach because of a belief that there's a line to how political we should get, right? Where I mean, we're appointees, we're supposed to be hashing out policy for the sake of the city council, but the the balance of how political you are, um, not being an elected official, but being just an appointed official is something that I had to think about a lot. And so I probably was too passive at times because I was probably too cautious about uh, not being political or seen as the planning commission as being political. Because, there are risks if it looks like the planning commission is maverick, then maybe we don't have as much clout with the city council. Uh, but I do believe that we have a leadership role to play. So being a little bit political, I think is okay. I think that if we can go out and do outreach and and rally the people who want to see some good positive change done, I don't think that that's a bad thing. And I don't think that's going to hurt our credibility as long as we're smart about it. So I would say I'm probably going more into philosophical than what Ariana was looking for. She was looking more of the practical stuff. But the practical stuff, of course, is just setting the agenda, running the meetings, doing some background research on some things that could be coming up, and offering potential solutions when a problem is presented before us. I think those things are the things you have to keep in mind. Being aware of the processes in the city and being knowledgeable about, at least a little knowledgeable about what the DRB does, what design review does, uh, the other, the other committees like housing and others that feed into what we do. At least being aware of what they do so that how they impact what we're doing. So because we don't want the planning commission to be a silo. Uh, but from there, you can take it whatever direction you want. It also requires, I think the chair requires having some thought about how efficient you want meetings to go, because there's a tension between uh, efficiency and getting a lot done, or hoping to get a lot done, and letting people speak their minds. And that's an area where I've tried to be patient about letting people. It's a value of mine to have people feel like they feel heard. Uh, but there is a point, there's a point at which it's not efficient anymore. So finding that balance is important, I think, for the chair, because it's the chair's job to keep the meetings running and to keep things flowing. Um, and there's got to be at least some ability to be okay with being the bad guy sometimes if you need to keep things going. So those are things I think that any chair is going to encounter. Uh, I think it's important to not make it all about yourself. And I don't think that there's anybody here that would do that, but it's at least, possible on a board like this for the chair to make their agenda the only agenda. And I don't think that that's a good approach, or just indulging too much in pet projects and things. But it's really for somebody to figure out on their own. It's going to be unique in a lot of ways for everyone. Do you guys have any questions before we move on?
Kirby, let me
Okay.
ask you, let me ask you, uh, if if you could dedicate the dream amount of time for the position, how much time would you say you'd need? Say a week, a month, what have you?
I mean, in an ideal world, it would be a full-time job. It could be a full-time job. I mean, Mike has a lot on his plate because he's not only give like staffing us, he's staffing other committees and he's running all of the regulatory aspects of the city. So if there were a policy oriented full-time job, that would be great. But realistically, being a volunteer, it could be an hour or two a week, or it could be if you wanted to be more dedicated, 5, 6 hours. I mean, there's been times when we were going through the city plan that I'd spend 2, 3 hours going over um, the submitted language and things for the plan and then working on that. Uh, that was a skill that I thought I could bring because I do have some background in legal writing. So um, that that was something that I did. Other people are going to have other backgrounds in which they can contribute between meetings in different ways. Um, but yeah, I don't, you know, between between 1 and 5 hours, but between meetings, I think is an acceptable norm. But again, you could disguise the limit with what you could do.
How much of it, so, you mentioned some of the things that you picked up because of the skills that you possess. How much of the things that you don't do were delegated out to others? And because we're on a volunteer basis with no real, money,
Mhm.
what, what did you delegate out, if anything, to achieve the goals to push on to the board?
That's a really good question because I'd say that I did not do a lot of delegating, but a person could. I think a person with a more extroverted skill set could probably leverage a lot of other people's skills. Um, I just personally wanted to respect people's, uh, I'm thankful for any planning commissioner just doing the meetings and putting in the effort that they want to put into. And so I didn't feel like everyone here's the planning commissioners are all volunteer, and I was very careful about trying to force anyone to do anything beyond what they wanted. But then again, yeah, that's probably not my skill set to try to do that kind of thing. So someone could leverage that better than me for sure. Um,
No
and
shade, man. No shade at
I
all.
think I think that that's true for all of you to keep in mind, like if you're with this transition, is that yeah, there'll be a new chair, but that's even for the people who aren't a new chair to do what they can to help that person succeed. And I have no idea what you'll do with the vice chair. I don't know what Gabe's plan is, but um, helping both of those roles succeed. Uh, you know, that's for those of you who are maybe not interested in the chair position. Yeah, you can think about what you can do for the new chair to help them. I think that's great. You can. It's not all about the chair delegating. It could be about other people stepping up to fill roles and voids. Definitely would encourage you to do that. Any more questions before we move on to nominations?
So I have a question for Mike. Is it typical that you like, should I resign at the same time Kirby resigns? Is that typical that you just get a new slate in, or what's typical?
No, there's certainly no requirement for that. Um, yeah, if you didn't step up to the chair, somebody else would just be stepping into the chair and you would remain vice chair um, to serve out the term till, what is it, October that we do new elections.
Okay.
So typically that's the way that would work.
So my question is, if someone wants to leave early, what happens? Do we do an emergency election? What happens there?
Well, that's basically the position we're in right now. Kirby was elected in October to serve a 1 year term as chair. His workload has gotten to the point where he doesn't feel like he can dedicate enough time to
No,
be
no, no.
chair.
I understand that, but the gentleman who spoke up stated he may want to leave as well. If we have something where both are up for grabs, what do we do there?
We would
We would
have a
probably do
nomination.
nominations. Yeah, we would do nominations on both. We would nominate a chair, and then we would follow that with nominations of the vice chair to fill that role.
And so we would do that tonight.
Potentially, we could.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and again, I was not speaking for Gabe anyway. I mean, my statement was I don't know what Gabe's plan is. So no, Gabe, do not feel any pressure that just because I'm doing something, we're not a party ticket or anything.
Oh, that's
Your
great. I'm
role
looking
your
forward to
role is your own.
supporting the new chair. Let's figure it out.
So are you leaving the commission, Kirby, or are you just not being
Yeah.
chair? Okay.
So
I thought
no,
you were.
procedurally, Mike and I discussed this, and it's a lot easier to offboard if I hand over the reins for the chair at this meeting, and then I can resign from the planning commission after everyone's set up. That way, I can actually run the nomination. Otherwise, Mike would probably have to do it, I think. So that's all. It's just a procedural thing. But yeah, this will be my last meeting. But I'm not stepping down from planning commission during this meeting. I'll do that after. Any more questions? Okay. Well, at this point, Brian, did you have a question before we move on?
Oh, no, no question.
Okay. I will take nominations for a new chair, or anyone can also feel free to just discuss the topic if they don't have a nomination.
And you can nominate yourself.
Hey, everyone, I just wanted to say I've appreciated my time on the planning commission for sure. I'm still relatively new. I think I'm a little over a year in, and I don't want to be the guy who says he's too busy to be the chair. However, I'm going to be that guy. I work. I just about the time I started, I jumped in with both feet on all civic engaged things. I started a position as a Secretary of State's office just about the time I started with the Planning Commission. And that was a brand new role for me. I'm still navigating my way through working for a public official, an elected official. They talk about partisan versus nonpartisan, Kirby. And I'm only about a year into that as well. And that sounds like a long time, but I still feel like I'm just, I really want to be part of the planning commission because it would help me learn about, I just moved back to Montpelier, want to learn about the city. It seemed like since we didn't do discretionary approvals, it was a little less tense, and it was a way to talk about policy and the vision of the city without 6-hour city council meetings, for example. So I really respect Carlton for jumping in on the mayoral race, for sure. Respect for that, because that's like varsity team stuff. But I would really look for someone who's been on the commission longer to step up. And I hate to be that guy, but I'm happy to nominate anyone. I just don't think I'm in a position to give this role, even though it's not a huge amount of commitment, as Kirby says. I want to give it its fair due, and I just don't feel like I'm in a position to do that. And I totally respect Gabe. I hope you'll stay on as vice chair, but I totally understand from your comments before how being chair is, just in light of your work and your existence outside of this commission, how it would be a challenge for you. We'd love to have you as chair, but I totally respect your position on that. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I just wanted to make sure people knew. I feel bad about it, but I just don't want to give it short shrift.
Thanks,
I
Brian.
mean, here, if I may say the same thing, I second the emotion. This is all drinking from a fire hose anyway. the mayoral race is something to draw attention to a lot of issues that, you know, pretty much keeping it simple, we all know about. I want to stay on the planning commission and also continue to look for a job. If this was paying money, definitely I'd consider it. But at this point, you know, the beat keeps going. So Kirby, again, I appreciate everything that you do, and whoever is nominated, you know, if they're willing to go ahead and work with everyone. And I'm not, like I said, passing judgment on anyone when I state that. I'm just stating that I'm new to the bunch and would like to, foster more of a wider frequency of dialogue within the community. So if we can continue doing that, the person has my vote. That's it. So no, I'm not interested.
Okay. Anyone else have any comment or nomination?
Well, I guess if nobody else wants to do it, I'm willing to be like, but I'd like to be co-chair with someone. I wonder if that's possible, because I just don't feel like I can do as much as you've been doing, Kirby, but I could facilitate the meeting certainly and do some of that work, but I don't think I have the capacity to do all that you are doing. So I'm wondering about having a co-chair. But if somebody wants to be chair, that would be preferable.
And Ariane, I'm happy to stay on as the vice, and I'm happy to step up a little bit more if you find that you need some help. But if there's somebody else that feels like they would be a good fit with Ariane to do that, to just step up a little bit, I'm also happy to resign. I really like serving here and plan to be here for as long as I can be appointed next several years. But I can either help back you up or step down and let somebody else do that.
I'm willing to, I would willing to co-chair with Elion, only because it would require more people. And like I said, I'm a rookie. So someone who's been on a little bit longer and understands things, I'm certainly willing to step up if there isn't one single president available. So I'll say that as an addendum.
So, Mike, let me ask you, is there a problem with having co-chairs?
I've seen a number of committees that have done it. I think technically we would probably have one person appointed chair, one person as vice chair, and just have them operate closely, just so that way, in case there's any question, not that it makes that much of a difference, but if there's ever any question when it comes to a certain vote or certain something, that we would have a technical difference. But in reality, co-chairs can work pretty comfortably together. I've seen it in a number of committees, and we don't have a lot of discretionary decisions to make. We're not hearing applications and those types of things. So yeah, I
Okay.
don't think it would be
So
a big issue.
the way you see it though would be a chair and a vice chair sharing the chair duties, or so like having two co-chairs and a vice chair is probably not the norm.
No, probably not. I mean, not for a committee of 7. We'd have 3 people as chairs and 4 people who are not chairs. So we'd probably just have the 2.
Yeah, I was just gonna echo that. I think that there's more benefit to just having a titular head of the committee to the commission and then having a vice chair, and we can structure that however you want. And I think between the chair and the vice chair, they can divvy up uh job, a job role or whatever they want to do. But I think it is helpful to just have somebody who is on paper, the chair, because at some point, there's a pecking order that I think we need to be able to rely on, and co-chairs can be a little bit messy. That being said, I fully support Ariane as being chair. I understand. I get the time limitations and whatnot, but I think you'd be a very good chair. And I think Gabe also, I think you, Ariane and Gabe could be very effective together. And I think between the two of you, I think it makes a lot of sense. So that would be I support that arrangement, having Ariane as chair and Gabe as vice.
Yeah, I would hate to
Aaron, I
lose
thought you were
Gabe's.
going to be the chair. What happened? You got, I think you're the most next senior person here.
I mean, okay. I don't know. I mean, I mean, I'll just say I'm happy to serve in whatever capacity, you know, the commission thinks is, you know, most beneficial. I mean, I will say is I'm in a similar boat as Ariane. I've got a small child and I'm trying to, you know, and unfortunately, for better or for worse, Mondays are karate is in the afternoon. So I barely get here on time as it is for most of our meetings. But you know, like I said, I'm happy to support the commission any way you can. I just think, you know, Ariane's experience on the commission is she's been here just as long, if not, I think a little bit longer than I have. She's up to speed on all the issues. And Gabe, I think you're really effective at, you know, helping steer the group and asking good probing questions and really giving us focus when we need to. So I think between the two of you, I think it makes a lot of sense. But you know,
Well, that's very kind, and karate is a priority too. Maria, I think everybody else has spoken, but you, I think we should hear from what your thoughts are.
Well, I was going to volunteer to be co-chair with Ariane too, since I don't like doing the upfront stuff. I don't like running meetings because I can get too bogged down in the issues. And I think if someone's running a meeting, they need to be able to, you know, to be able to step back and kind of see like a longer view. But I'm very happy to do, you know, that 1 to 5 hours a week that Kirby was talking about. I think I can find the time somewhere in my schedule to like do all of the prep work, and then help Ariane run the meeting. But you know, I don't have that skill set that I think she has. But then I don't want to take over Gabe's role. I kind of wish we could be co-chairs. I think we could be a good team.
The thing is, I feel like we're so collaborative, and Maria, you know, I think you have so many good points that you pull out. You know, again, I could wait until October. I could do it now. I mean, I'm happy to support Ariana and Maria and to resign as the vice chair and just support. I mean, I think that could be really great if you've got the capacity, Maria. I mean, I don't know how other people feel about that. I appreciate people saying nice things about, you know, me, but I think everybody on here has been very collaborative and we've really worked through. We all have our own strengths. We have different things that we bring, and so it's great. So
So
can I nominate both of them? Can I say we have a ticket of Ariana Maria? Is that, can I
great.
do a nomination like that, or how does that work?
I think you have to. I think you have to step down technically
Well, I
first.
resign. I officially resign. I'm done.
So I just I'd like to.
Ariane is chair and
Ooh.
Maria is vice.
I see you, bro.
That was the resolution, but I don't know if that's in order or not. Mike would have to tell me if I'm in order.
That
I
would
just
be,
wanna-
we would need a
I-
nomination to approve the slate, but I know Carlton's trying to get in.
Yes, I am. So I just want to again go back and say I'd like to remove myself. I always at 21 years of living here, I love one of the things that I ran for mayor for was to spark the interest in a lot of things. So like Aaron had stated, there are other people here that probably do a better job, and those strapped with time may offer a window of opportunity for bigger causes within the community that I simply want to pay more attention to from a non-volunteer standpoint. So I say that long-windedly to say I remove myself and continue to look forward to learning from the standpoint I am.
So can I make a resolution that we vote on Ariane for chair and Maria for co-chair?
Yeah. Well, I'll look to Mike. Where Mike, would it be better to take them one at a time, or is two at a time acceptable?
I don't think there's any I'd usually lean on the Secretary of State over here and see, but I don't think there's any rules to prohibit such a thing. I think
No.
usually what you do is nominate, Gabe would just nominate a slate, and then we would look for a second of this on the slate, and then we would have a discussion and then a vote, or take any other nominations. I think the question is if there was any contested, if we thought that the chair was going to be a contested seat, then we should obviously do them separately. It doesn't sound like it's a contested seat, and it doesn't sound like the vice chair would be contested either. So it makes sense that it would be okay to nominate the slate, take any other nominations, close the nominations, and then vote.
Well, I'll do that formally then. Are there any nominations besides Ariane for the chair position at this time? Would anyone like to nominate anyone different for the chair position? Okay. And we've had Gabe verbally resign. I don't think I officially verbally resigned, except for the whole reason why we're even doing this is that that's heavily inferred. I formally resign in case that needs to be on the record as chair of the planning commission. Okay, do we have any nomination? We've heard a nomination for Maria for vice chair. Is there anyone else who would also be interested in serving as vice chair and work with Ariane if nominated and elected? Anyone? Okay, so we have a motion then from Gabe to nominate Ariane as chair and Maria as vice chair at the same time. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second.
I heard Brian slightly sooner. So so we have a motion from Gabe and a second from Brian to nominate Ariane as chair of the planning commission and Maria as vice chair. Any discussion before we proceed with the vote? Anybody else have any thoughts? Okay. In that case, those in favor say aye, yes, whatever. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, so it looks like it's unanimous, Mike.
Congratulations.
Congrats. Thanks, you guys, for stepping up. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
We'll help you. We'll step up. We'll all help you.
Ariane, I feel like I should draft like an agreement between us that I can just see it on her face. She's like, what? It's like a personal kind of like, I vow that I will like feel like a co-chair,
Well, thank you.
Sure.
So I'm handing it over to you for Ariane. You're running the rest of the meeting.
Okay.
So good luck
All
with
right.
that.
We'll see how it goes. Can be sorry. Let me get the agenda up. I think the next thing was comments from incoming chair. I don't have any comments other than, yes, I'm going to need a lot of help. So thank you for all your offers of help. Oh, general business. Do we have any members of the public here?
Don't know if Sean has any comments for general business. If not, I guess we can move on.
Okay. Oh yeah, update on the council public hearing on zoning amendments. So I think there was another city council meeting since our last planning commission meeting, and it sounded like it was more, just reading the little blurb in the bridge, it sounded like it was a little more negative. So I didn't attend it, so if anyone attended it, it'd be great to hear more about it.
Yeah, so we had a hearing, the third hearing now, and that was on the 13th, and we made one minor change to the solar provisions because there was written text in the solar section that was referring to a diagram that we had removed. And the diagram had really been designed for December 21st light. And now the sun is different, so that diagram really wasn't working. So I removed the diagram, but I forgot to remove the two sentences. We went through and removed the sentences, and the council said that they want to be able to see those changes before approving. So we have made those changes, posted them online. They've been online since the day after the hearing. We let the counselors know they were there. If they want copies, we said we would make them copies. No one has contacted us for copies. So we are hopefully ready to go for the 3rd. So there is a council meeting in 2 days on Wednesday, this Wednesday, but that is a meeting that's dedicated to the Public Works Department. So we didn't want to go and have a planning thing kind of jump in the middle and push them because usually they have a lot of stuff to talk about. The meeting on the 3rd, which is 9 days from now, that Wednesday, week from this Wednesday, is when I was already going to be the main event. We've got a whole bunch of items on the agenda, so we just added the zoning hearing to that one. So that will be the 3rd, April 3rd. So if anyone wants to be there for April 3rd, you're welcome to be there, either in person or on the Zoom.
But I didn't watch it live. I watched it on Orca after the fact, but it didn't seem to me, to your comment, Ariane, it didn't seem negative. They got bogged down in the solar shading issue quite a bit, but I think that it seemed to me the council was still on board with, I mean, they wanted to pass everything. They were trying to make motions to pass everything else but the solar, I think. And then the decision was made to keep it all together. I think, Mike, that's how I read it when I watched the hearing. It seemed like there were some concerns about the zoning designation for that you had created for Country Club, but that it didn't seem like a deal breaker on moving ahead with. They seemed anxious to move ahead with all the changes. They just got a bit bogged down and wanted to see the final language on, I think, in terms of, I know you're not going to give us political commentary on this, but it seemed that they were ready to move on everything else. They just wanted to wait to kind of see everything.
Thank you for that. Well, I thought there was a sentence in the bridge that said something like Counselor Heaney didn't support moving ahead, or there was something in there that made me think, oh, this doesn't sound good, but now I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I think if I were to characterize things, there was everybody had kind of a reason, not everybody. I think there was a motion to approve it. It didn't get a second. I think Carrie was the one who wanted to see the final writing. Adrian, that was her first meeting. I think she was just a little hesitant about, this was really something everybody else had worked on, and she was generally in support of. And I'm trying not to put words in counselors' mouths. I'm trying to interpret what I saw. We were missing Counselor Hurl, which may have made a difference. She had a lot of opinions. I don't remember if Palin was there, but Tim wanted to have more conversation about Country Club Road. So he's, so each one kind of had something that was like, I'm not ready to approve this. We'll see what comes out on at the next meeting. And I think if we get a motion in a second, then at least we'll get a vote. And then once we've got a vote, then we can see where everybody's at. And if the vote is there isn't enough votes to pass, then we can start to ask the question, okay, what is it do we have to amend? But right now we haven't had any votes, no votes that approved, no votes that denied. So we were kind of left in a position of we've got to wait till we get a motion, get a second, and then get a vote and see if we get 3, 4, 2, and then once we've got that, then it's up to the mayor to decide what types of changes have to be made in order to get this across the finish line. So we will wait and see.
Great. I'll try to attend the meeting. Are more people coming in person or are still most people coming on Zoom to city council meetings?
Most are on Zoom. The council chambers has been cut in half, so we don't have the big chamber anymore. The back
Oh,
half,
right.
the memorial room is now an office for CJC, so it is a little more cramped, a little tighter, but there were plenty of seats at the last meeting, so it wasn't crowded or anything. But
But there's still
certainly,
a
if
lot of
somebody
people on Zoom, so it's not like weird if you're on Zoom. Okay, that's
No.
what I was wondering. Okay. Great. Does anyone have any other questions or comments on the city council hearing? Okay, I guess the next thing was public input plan for the city plan.
All right, so we have finally started to reach the point where we are going to start rolling this city plan out. I've been working with SE Group. They've been really busy wrapping up a few other contracts that they're on. They do have a bunch of work that they have done, and they are getting things to me. So the two of us, SE Group, who is our consultant, and me have been working on is really getting 4 chapters, or if you want, we can adjust the number. Our thought was to start with 4 chapters, get all those storyboards done and ready to go. And you've seen drafts of those storyboards. We'll polish them up, finish them up. I have another meeting tomorrow with Evelyn about putting together the implementation strategies. So you remember we did these in 2 pieces. We kind of have what used to be the chapter, the written text, have now been converted into storyboards. And we also have the implementation strategies. What are our goals? What are our aspirations? What are our strategies so we can accomplish them? That's in kind of another document. So we have a housing chapter, which is a storyboard, and then we have a housing implementation strategy, which are all those. Evelyn is working on how to make that graphically. How do we show that? How do we communicate that plan to the public? Because it's a lot of good information in there, but it's also can be a little bit confusing, and some things repeat themselves, like growth center designation may come up multiple times. So how do we show this? How do we communicate this without confusing the public? And so she's working with me on how to put that together. SE Group is working with me on those 4 chapters. So the thought would be probably not in April, because I think we're going to have some stuff keeping us busy through the month of April. But I'm looking at early May or late May, depending on how things go. What are we looking at for? We would usually meet May 13th, and actually May 27th is actually Memorial Day, so that could be a problem. But the idea is that in May we would be able to start having public input, and then the question is going to be, what's the best way to do this? When I was envisioning this, I was always thinking this was going to be in person. We were going to find a space, and maybe that's the best way to do it, is that we encourage people to come in. We want to see people in person. Maybe we get the lower part of the senior center. They've got a large room where we could go in. We can show these storyboards, maybe have a couple of computers set up where people can see the storyboards. We can review them. They can look at them, and then we can have posters of the implementation strategies, and we can talk through each one of them. So that was kind of my thought, was that we could have people be able to go station to station, and then we could go through and have planning commissioners and staff who would be able to be there to answer questions, take comments, and then we can come back and have some group discussions on these. And that's my thought, is to start to feel out the public on the chapters. I think that we thought were the farthest along were arts and culture, historic resources, housing, and now I'm going to draw a blank on the fourth one. I can't remember what the fourth one is, but we would have 4 chapters. There's 11 chapters total. So the thought is we would be able to do this 3 times throughout the summer, maybe May and June. We'll do the same meeting over twice. So we'll do it once in May and once in June, let's say, and we'll talk about these 4 chapters. And then we as a commission can sit down and say, what did we hear? How did we do? We didn't hear much on this chapter. We heard a lot of good things about this chapter. People thought we weren't doing a good job on that chapter. And then we can start working on that while at the same time bringing out the next 4 chapters. And we can go and have the chapters on whatever they are: natural resource, energy, transportation, utilities and facilities. We would have 4 more chapters. And while we're taking public input on those, we're also working at our other meeting on making revisions to the plan that we need to make. And then we would finally get to the last 3 chapters, and we still have 1 chapter left to develop, which is the land use chapter. And I've been holding off on putting the draft together because there's a number of state laws that have been kicking around that are going to impact land use. And how we frame land use. A lot of the Act 250 legislation is saying you've got to have these types of designations and these types. So I really want to wait, see what comes out of those bills to make sure that we can very carefully, or I can very carefully draft a good land use plan that we can all then consider as a planning commission before going to public hearing on. But as we said, we've got 10 of the 11 chapters done. If we did 4, 4, and 3, I think that would be a good way of doing it. We could also do 6 and 5 if we just wanted to break it into 2 chunks. But the idea is we would be able to spend some time, and everybody in the public would get a couple of bites at the apple. Evelyn does a lot of work with surveys. She's been doing a lot of these different survey type things, so we would work with her to do more surveys. And if we need more public input, we do more public input. As I've said, there's no maximum. It's not like, well, you can't do, you can only do up to 6 public hearings. We can do as many as we want, and we can do them as long as we want until we feel comfortable that we're in a good place with the document. And then
can I ask you a question, Mike?
Yep.
So you mentioned the Act 250. Some of the things that you're waiting on are some of the changes in Act 250. Are there any opportunities to move forward in a quicker manner because of the Home Act? And any any leeway with the land use in that given that is coming online or online?
Yeah, so most of the Home Act really was targeted towards the zoning side of things and less towards the city plan side of things. So the city planning is in chapter 117 is in the 4,300s, the 4,300s, and the zoning is all in the 4,400s. Most of the Home Act was in that 4,400s. You're required to have these and those uses or densities in your zoning. And we already meet all of those requirements. The few changes that have to be made are the things that are in this zoning amendment that is before City Council right now. We have a couple of small changes we have to make, and we've got those in that proposal. So as soon as that's passed, we will be compliant with the Home Act. But the Act 250, the unique thing about Act 250 is that it requires in criteria 10 conformance with the city plan. And The second piece that Act 250 has is a whole bunch of requirements that come in that say, or not requirements, but exemptions that come in and say, if you're in this certain designation, you can be a tier 1A. This is the current proposal. The current proposal that's kicking around the State House right now talks about tier 1A, tier 1B. So you can have a part of your downtown or a part of your community that gets a tier 1A designation, which is what we would generally call the designated downtown and the growth centers. And so those can get exemptions. So if you're a tier 1A, you don't have to go through Act 250 at all, as it's currently written. And then there's a tier 1B where some projects are exempt and some projects aren't. And then anyways, it gets very, very complicated, very, very fast. But how this
No, that
relates
sounds
back
cool
to
to me.
how it relates back to the city plan is those designations we usually have to put into our city plan or our town plan if we were a town, and to go through and say we would like our this area to be, we believe this area would be appropriate for a tier 1A, so that way it can, and tier 1B, so that way it can go to the Regional Planning Commission for approval, and the Regional Planning Commission can add those to their map, because the Regional Planning Commission has to have a future land use map. And then if it gets approved by whatever the committee is, the NRB or the downtown board or whatever that designation is, there's a lot of pieces that are moving right now, but however that process gets approved. But it really starts with the municipality saying, here's our master plan, here's our city plan, and here's where we think is the most appropriate place for that urban or that village area. And so I'm kind of waiting to see. As we said, there's so many moving parts on this bill. If I knew what the end product was on the bill, I could write it right now, but there's no sense getting ahead of myself. We'll wait, see what the legislature comes out with, and then make sure we write a bill or write a land use plan that dovetails well with where they want their future maps to look like.
All right, so I got to go to the State House and start yelling.
If it's okay, I can chime in on this since I work in the State House every day now and have worked on some of these bills. I can tell you we have no idea how things are going to end up. There's a major housing bill coming out of the House that I've been working on, and we have no idea what the Senate's going to do to it. So, the dust isn't going to settle until May probably. So as Mike was saying, we're just not going to know. And I would also add that the past two legislative sessions before this one, there was a lot of federal money because of COVID relief. That money is basically evaporated at this point. So belts are much tighter and spending on housing is much tighter, even though housing, I would say, probably is right up there with top priorities. There's still a question of how much money is going to be spent. I would also probably just add that a lot of the money that probably will end up being available, I think, is going to probably run through the VHCB. And they have something like a 10-year plan for housing in Vermont. And the legislature seems to be taking that approach from everything I've seen. So if you are interested in having some glimpse of maybe what will happen in the future, I would probably look at whatever materials are out there for what VHCB would like to do over the next 10 years. Because it seems like they're going to probably be in charge of housing development at least.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, sorry. I don't know. I'm trying to stick with protocol, but just in terms of the public input sessions, these aren't public hearings, right? These are like informational sessions or open houses for the public for us to interact with the public in some way to get feedback before. This is not the formal public hearing process.
Technically, yes. Yeah, there would.
Okay.
I may occasionally throw out the word saying it's a hearing, but we won't have the hearing until we have a product that all of the commission has sat down and said, we've heard from the public in our public input sessions. And we're all comfortable with this, and we're going to make a motion to warn the public hearing. And then we would have your 1 or 2 formal public hearings on the final product.
Right. Okay.
Hopefully next fall or winter. Maria, you want to jump in?
I was just gonna say I'd like the idea of is it 3, 3, and 4? Or 3, 4, and 4 rather than 5 and 6. I think just from our own experience going through these, once you get past 3, it just, it's just hard to hold your attention for that long. So anyway, I just wanted to throw it out there that I'd support 3 or even more sessions. Or maybe pairing up topics that aren't as heavy with topics that, are going to have a lot of public comment so that, we can try to just use our time and resources efficiently. Like we know housing will probably be something that draws people in. Anyway, that's just my input. Oh, and then I was also going to, you said the senior center. We could possibly use a senior center. But I could volunteer our art studio downtown as a place to hold the meetings too. It's ADA accessible and we are used to holding events there. So, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, this certainly could be nice. Thank you. Certainly if we're doing the arts and culture chapter with something else, it might even be appropriate to kind of fit it into that venue. That would be good. And as Maria said, we can certainly break it down into smaller groups. If we were thinking, we've got 2 meetings a month, maybe we do 2 chapters a month. The first meeting is 2 chapters, and then we can talk about it, and then we can do 2 chapters, and it would take us six months to do the entire plan. But then we're focusing on fewer chapters, smaller chapters, as opposed to trying to have people digest 4 chapters. They'd only have to digest 2. It just draws that window out a little bit longer. So we can certainly do fewer chapters with each one, but that might mean we only have 1. So let's say we do art and housing for the May meeting. We might end up with just having 1 meeting on that, and maybe the public wants more than 1. But then you start doubling that, and you start doing, let's do 2 meetings. Then this is taking more than a year to get through the discussion process, and I think we would want to be not taking a year. I think taking 6 months is more than fine for having a lot of discussion, but I think getting at more than a year would be more of a problem. But just ideas.
Yeah,
This is officially your process. So
I was just gonna say, can we, because I feel like May 13th isn't as far away as I think it is. Can we start reserving a space or deciding on a space? I don't know exactly what the process would be for that, but I feel like, and I assume SE Group will do the storyboards for us, the displays.
yeah, I'm thinking we'll probably try to do some computers. Maybe they're just laptops. It'd be great if we had some setup where there was, something with slightly bigger monitors. I might work with our IT folks to see if we can either Wi-Fi connect or cable connect laptops up to, bigger computer screens, so we can actually go through them and there can be multiple people viewing them. But I'll have to talk to them about that process. But yeah, I think that was the idea, is we could theoretically print out the storyboards, but I think the point is for people to try to see them digitally, because that's what the product is supposed to be.
Yeah, well, I definitely would like to, I mean, I don't want to rush things, but I would like to plan on having that, hearing on May 13th. Um, and I guess Mike, just let us know what we need to do in order to make that happen. But I don't know what the senior center space looks like. I know, Maria, because I pick up my daughter there, that the Wilder Art Studio can be, I don't want you guys to feel like you have to clean up, because I presume we would have it at like 5:30 on a Monday, so that could be a tight turnaround from any after school class, but
We would clean up for you guys. It's not our problem because we have classes going every evening now, so we all have to flip the studio around anyway, so it's fine. But I was going to add that I think maybe having two is a bit too few for one session. I think the three is like a really good number. I don't know what other people think. I mean, having this go for a half year just seems so long to me, but I'm curious to hear what other people think.
Compared to where we've been with this, 6 months is nothing.
So yeah, that would really look at four groups of public hearing. So we'd have three on, a three, and then two for the last one. And we could take it by ear, play it by ear. If we have a hearing on transportation, energy, and utilities and facilities, those three actually kind of go together. Maybe we take public comment, we don't hear a lot, and we don't need to have a second meeting on that one. Maybe housing, we get a lot of input and people decide, the commission decide, we'll have a second meeting on that one. Or we'll get through all of them and go through and say, you know what, we've heard from everybody in the input, we've gotten everybody's input. Now we're going to have the public hearing, and we expect that we're now going to, those same issues that came up, we tried to address them, and now we're in the public hearing. And then in the public hearing, that'll just go until whenever. We'll be having a hearing with all 11 displays out at once and having people make comments, and we will continue to have hearings until we feel like we've got a product that you're willing to say, I make a motion to pass this to the city council for consideration, and then it goes off to them, kind of similar to how we do the zoning. You'll reach a point where you're like, I think this is, we don't want to let perfect be the enemy of the good, so we're going to move this to council and let them have their shot at it, and hopefully we get that up to them in a good window of time, that either it's just before or just after the election next year. And it's difficult if it crosses over an election because you could get new people. So usually you want to hopefully get it in so they're adopting it before, or they're getting it and they're going to hold it till after. But we'll see for their hearings. But that sounds like a good approach. I will target 3 boards for May 13th, and we'll make sure one of them is art. And I think the next one is going to be housing, and I'm going to say it's going to be art, housing, and historic, just because I think those are very straightforward Their housing is very important. And I think we can get good input, and we'll get a sense of how the process is going to go. And maybe the process turns into a big train wreck and we've got to reconsider how we do this, or maybe it all goes perfectly fine. I never know how this goes until you're in the middle of a, in the middle of a big meeting. But hopefully, like I said, we'll do a lot of outreach on those, start letting people know. That's when we're going to start having public input on the city plan. And I will get you guys at one of our next meetings in April. I'll bring the final storyboard so you guys can get a chance to look at what's going out there. Again, when I say final, everything is draft. They can change at any point. All we need is a motion from someone to say change that, and it gets changed. So we'll get those up to you guys for one of your next meetings coming up. So I think that's about as much information as I needed to get from you guys so I could start to work with Evelyn and work with SE Group to move this forward. Good ideas. And I'll be in touch at the next meeting and start going over things.
So is that a good segue to should we meet on Eclipse Day?
Would be the next meeting. So I'll be bringing this to the next meeting. The question is the next meeting the 8th or is the next meeting the 22nd?
I mean,
Isn't it a national holiday, the Eclipse Day?
Eclipse Day might as well be. It really depends. I don't know what the weather is going to be like, and that's going to be the big ringer for everything. I have a bunch of family who want to come up. My family's from Connecticut, and so they're all driving up to stay for the eclipse, which is from like 2 to 4 on that Monday. So I'm definitely not going to be available if they're up for the 8th. But if the weather's rainy, then it's just going to be a cloudy day with rain that gets dark and then gets light again and then gets dark. In which case they're not coming up all that way.
Even if it's cloudy, even if it's completely overcast, it's still really cool.
It's still a big event.
Yeah, it's still spooky.
So Mike, you said you wouldn't be available the night of the 8th.
If my family comes up, I definitely would not be. But I don't know how many other people. I know schools have been canceled, and I don't know if a lot of other people are like, "Hey, I'm going to be busy partying it up and enjoying the eclipse." And
I'm going to be partying it up and enjoying the eclipse. So I will not be there on the 8th.
Oh, okay. Wow. I was gonna say I think we should meet because the eclipse will be over, but I guess I'm not having enough fun on Eclipse Day.
I know. I feel like I'm gonna be homebound. There's no school, there's no work. Like I will be
They're saying stay off the roads.
I know. Yeah. But I don't know if Aaron can
well,
make
I'm
it.
just noticing that the other Monday meeting in April is like school vacation, which I don't know if anyone's traveling for that, but can we reschedule for another day that in April, or is April 22nd going to be enough? Will there be enough of us? And is that enough time to like get ready for the May 13th meeting?
So I won't be there on the 22nd either.
Okay, see.
I mean, we can push stuff to the 9th. I mean, rather than meeting when there are holidays for people who haven't been here for a long time, like Memorial Day, we'll have that conversation. But usually there's a lot of people taking long holidays when it comes to Memorial Day. But some holidays, President's Day will come up. Planning Commission will push it to a Tuesday instead of a Monday, and we'll just meet on Tuesday instead. We could certainly do that for the Eclipse Day and just say we're going to meet on the 9th. I think that would be an RPC board meeting, which I was going to mention because
yes, I don't want to be on the RPC anymore if I'm the chair.
That was the other one I was going to mention. That Ariane's also. It's very unusual to have the Planning Commission chair also be on the RPC board of directors. So we'll probably have to look for a replacement there. I am the alternate, so for now it's not a big deal if Ariane resigns. We'll just have to start having a conversation about who would like to be. It's typically a planning commission member that sits on the board, so folks can think about if they want to meet. It's about once a month. They do try to drag you into being on another committee because they do have a lot of subcommittees. So you usually end up as a board member once a month, 10 meetings a year, second Tuesday, and then usually they get you on one of the subcommittees as well. So I'm on the Regional Planning Commission, Regional Plan Rewrite Committee, but there are a number of other committees that they usually try to get you on too. So that's just an idea. Think about it, and we could talk about it. We'll put it on the next agenda for getting somebody on as a replacement to Ariane. But that also puts us on back onto the whether we want to meet on the 9th.
I mean,
So it
I
just
guess
means
I
we
would
won't.
favor meeting on the 9th, but does that mean someone has to miss it to go to the RPC meeting, or can we all skip the RPC meeting for April?
I'll just let them know that we're going to have to skip it because we're going to be appointing a new person.
Okay,
Just because you won't be available because you're going to now be chair, and I won't be able to because I'm staffing the meeting. So until May, they'll have to wait. And whoever we pick, we will have to go to city council to appoint. So there's going to be a little bit of a process that's going to go along with this.
and does everyone feel okay about meeting on the 9th?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, good.
I'm okay with it.
So
I may not be able to attend, but I'm not going to don't let me hold it up. Sounds like you've got a quorum for that day.
Okay. That's good.
So the idea is we're going to be meeting on the 9th. Okay. Excellent. All right. That question's answered.
Okay. Okay, so great. I think the last thing we have is considering the minutes of March 11th, and I don't see the meeting minutes for January 22nd, but maybe those were in a previous email.
They were probably in a previous email and I didn't send them.
Okay, well, I don't know if somebody wants to make a motion to approve the minutes of March 11th once we've had a chance to look at them. We could at least start with that.
I'll move that we approve the minutes since I haven't gotten to do something like that in a long time.
All right. Is there a second for Kirby's motion?
Maybe they need more time. Nope.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Well, I'll second it for sure to approve the minutes.
Okay, all those in favor of passing the March 11th minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay. And then do I say any opposed? Do I have
Any
to say that?
opposed?
Okay, any
Yes.
opposed? All right. And then should we, do you want to resend those January minutes, or?
I'll put them on the next
Okay.
next agenda and I'll make sure to attach them. We were
Okay.
kind of rushing to get the agenda assembled last week and that one didn't get attached.
Okay. Great. So I think we just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Does somebody need to second that? Did Carlton second that?
I second that.
Okay.
So
All right.
Bye, everyone.
just so you get in the habit of and Kirby does it and other folks have done it just for the audio tape. Usually what we'll do is just restate who it was.
Okay.
That was Aaron made the motion or Brian made the motion and Carlton seconded. That helps Tam, who does our minutes, because
Okay.
sometimes she can't see who it is.
Right. Okay. So Aaron made the motion and Carlton seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. I sent my resignation letter in, so
Thanks,
good
Kirby.
luck.
See you, Kirby.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Kirby.
man.
Hey,
Good job, Ariane.
go out there and recruit my replacement. Okay.
Yeah.
That's that's my last tip as I exit.
Yeah, it'll get
Okay.
so we'll get it posted. I'll work with Mary. She will get it posted in the paper. And that may take a couple of weeks for it to get to council, and then council will appoint a replacement for the remaining portion of Kirby's seat, which I will have to find out whether that is 6 months or 18 months. But I will figure that out. All right. Have a great solar day.
It's a
See everyone on the
never-ending story.
ninth. Thanks.